Not Another Podcast, episode 8.
8, yeah.
And there's been some news. We took a week off. Dayna, you want to fill everybody in on exactly why we took a week off?
There are some changes. So I lost my job last week. You may know that if you follow me on social media. And it wasn't just me. It was the majority of the on-air staff at both Jump 106.9 and Boom 99.7, the sister station, and also some of staff that work in promo.
Me.
Like our good friend Ryan, who is joining us on this week's podcast.
Ryan, who worked in the promo department for how long?
That job for 10 years, but I was in the building for 13.
You started off as street team?
Started off, as an intern.
As an intern. So you weren't paid?
I was not paid.
So street teamers are whenever you go to an event, a radio station is at that event, and they have people usually wearing the shirt, running around in a tent.
You know, giving you swag.
Street team, giving you
stuff.
swag. Yeah. And that's what a street teamer does. Yeah. So
I just have to say, I've been waiting so long to be producer Ryan on the Tony and Dayna show.
Yeah.
Years I spent in the studios with you, just waiting for my time.
Just like your intern days, you will not be paid.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been a week today, actually. We're recording this on the Tuesday. It was a week today that you all got the email.
5 minutes to the moment I was about to hop on.
That's right. Yeah, right. How are you feeling?
I think, to be honest, seeing you go through it back in February, because you lost your job in February.
Yeah.
Seeing you go through it and knowing what to expect, I actually think was very helpful.
I was the guinea pig.
Yeah,
my pain is your pleasure.
Essentially. And while I do feel a bit lost and I am very concerned for the future because the job market is quite uncertain and radio is an unstable business right now, depending on, the company. Again, seeing you go through it has helped, temper my expectations, and like know exactly what to expect, dealing with looking at packages and contracts and going through all that legal stuff,
Because when it happened, the first 2 or 3 weeks I was so in the shit about it. You're talking to lawyers, there's
all this jargon you don't understand.
That's right. Yeah. This contract comes in, you don't understand certain things. And like you said, there's the uncertainty of the future. You're like, what do I do now? Am I going to get through this?
Talking with you and how you experienced everything sort of gave me a roadmap on what to expect, at least with the legal jargon and this process. I've worked at that job for my entire adult life. Like I've had 2 jobs in my life. I pumped gas in high school and then I started working in radio. So, but the writing was on the wall for this to happen for a long time. Like we went in almost every day, never knowing if that would be our last day. So for it to actually finally happen I'm still not over the shock, and especially on like the end result that like it wasn't just me or like one person that got let go. Like it was all of us.
Yeah.
All of us that have worked together in that building for a decade.
10 years at least.
Yeah. Like I've seen you guys more than my own family for the most part. The pandemic kind of changed that a little bit because like I started working from home. So I think if this was before the pandemic, it probably would have been a lot worse emotionally. Mm-hmm. Being in radio and like they always say you never made it in radio until you lost your job. Like that's the common trope. I know. I've sort of set myself up mentally in this process for a long time now and put myself in other places to not make work my whole identity.
Yeah.
So while there's the shock, there's sadness, it's all over, definitely some anger and frustration. I think, and it might hit me later, but for right now, like I'm okay. I'm still able to be myself.
I don't think, and maybe you can back me up on this, I don't think I ever got angry. I think we, like you said, we had all mentally prepared ourselves for this to be a possibility, especially with the trajectory of how the business was going. And when it finally happened, you're like, it's still a shock when it happens. You're like, it's actually happening. But I don't think I ever got angry because it wasn't personal. I was let go a couple months earlier, but it was all financial stuff. And now the way you guys were let go, it clearly is not personal.
Well, no.
They're like, you're all gone.
It's never personal. It's always financial in radio because that's just the way the business is.
I don't know.
Right now.
I've seen some people let go for personal reasons.
Well, I mean, if you are, if there's a reason to be let go for personal reasons, that's different.
Right,
but usually when there's quote unquote restructuring, right? Yep. It's purely financial. It has nothing to do with the job that you were doing or maybe the job that you didn't do it to their standards. No, it has nothing to do with that. It's financial. And a lot of people always ask, why are they doing this? why you were my favorite host, and why is radio always doing this to our favorite hosts? And that's what it comes down to. The only justification we can give is that they try to put themselves in a financial position to survive. And the first people that get cut are the people on the ground floor. Yeah. Right?
People on the ground floor, the people who are there every day, they're the ones that get let go first.
Yeah.
And for me, the hardest part was the loss of the routine. Getting up every morning, coming downstairs, Dayna's already here. We would prep the show at this table. We would get the show ready. We would plan out what we're going to talk about for the day. She'd go work out. I'd run some errands or whatever. And then we'd go to work together, separate cars. So, because nobody had to know that we were together.
I know.
What? Whoa.
What a
Whoa.
Funny story.
What a waste of gas.
And, that was the hardest part for me, was losing my routine. And that's how I felt lost.
For me, it's like, because it's different. Like when the pandemic happened and we all started working from home, like the routine changed. And then when we started going back into the office, that routine changed again. Whereas like some days it's getting ready for work. Some days it's just, going there. I think what's helped me and why maybe my reaction is a little bit different from how you guys experienced it is I have a dog. So whether I want to like sleep in and do nothing, I have to get up and walk him anyway. So
you think you can sleep in and do nothing with 2 cats?
Yes.
No,
I do.
absolutely not. Okay. I'll give you Ozzy for a week and you'll be sick of him.
Yeah, just close the door. It's fine.
Just close the door.
Yeah, it's fine. They're cats. No, but so there's that aspect of it. And just given how long like I've been advocating and speaking on mental health, I think giving myself credit for a minute that like I'm such an active participant in creating this lifestyle for myself that allows me to not only move through the good times and like keep a stable baseline, but now that something like this happens or other crises that I've been dealing with, which you guys sort of know about in my personal life, I've built a routine that I'm pretty steadfast on that like, no matter what I do, it's like already built into what I do in my well-being it's been a pretty smooth transition that I still get up.
Like you have the foundation to deal with stuff
exactly.
Like this
so
happens.
I still go to the gym because I'm like, my brain's locked in, still walk the dog, still do the same things around the same time. And I think for myself, that's been like a hugely benefit. I mean, we're only a week in, so 2 weeks from now, I could be like, guys, come get me. I'm so depressed. Who knows? But like for now, at least, like losing your job is one of the most catastrophic things for a lot of people. Like people take their lives over this. People's lives are ruined because of this.
Absolutely.
Like it is. Like I don't want to minimize it because will I experience different emotions down the road? Like I'm sure I will, and like I'm just hoping that I can adjust to it.
Well, and despite what your mind is able to do when you go through something like this, how does your body react too? Those are two different things. Like your change of routine and your that impact of that traumatic news does things, I think, to your body that you don't even realize.
I got sick.
Yeah.
Like, you make yourself sick. Like mentally, you can stress to the point where your body manifests that stress, right? In like feeling sick or nauseous, and like you always say,
I couldn't go to the bathroom for 4 days. Is that TMI?
Oh my goodness.
That's TMI. I think we've heard enough.
Could you not find it? Like was the door closed? Yeah, I started getting a cold on Friday and like a sore throat a little bit and like a little sniffles on Sunday. I felt awful.
Yeah, your immune system is probably taking a hit because you're mentally, and physically, that stress can manifest right in the body.
And for a lot of people, like you said earlier, your job is your identity. And you losing your job is like you're losing your identity. You don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what to do next, especially in a field like radio where you go to school for it. You've invested so much time into it. You've moved your life. You've uprooted your life several times for it. And now it's just gone.
And when you're on air,
yep.
It's a constant machine in your head. Like it's a constant thought in your head. You're always thinking about the show, always thinking about
what is this good
what's
for the
tomorrow?
Show? We used to do that for so much stuff. Like we would be in the car having a conversation.
Yeah.
Is this good for the show?
Yeah.
We'd see something online. Is this good for the show?
I gotta write this down. I gotta write everything down. Everything you write down because you're like, this is for the show. This is content,
It is a bit of a relief though. It is because
Mentally, yes.
Now what we do is we're like, hey, is this a good video for TikTok? At Tony and Dayna.
Yeah.
At Tony and Dayna. That's what we do now. So it's not so much stress on, is it good for the show? Is it good for the show? Is it good for the show? Now it's just like, well, there is no show.
That would make a fun video, you know? Like,
yeah. We do it more like when we want to, as opposed to feel like we have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think for positions like yours as well, like where you're, like your entire job is like, yes, you have the show, but like you're creating this brand and identity for yourself with like these like certain traits you have, and like your whole life gets like modeled around this, and then you're trying to market it to people to come listen, come watch us, come be a part of our lives, right? So it's like when you don't have that, it's like where does that all go? And like some people, like you said, like maybe that's a relief, maybe that's like, oh, I can finally just breathe.
Yep.
But then other people that we know, I don't think can turn it off. And those are the people I worry about a lot, because like what's going to come next for them, especially people who've been in this business for a very long time. It's all they know, and they're older. Like those are the people I'm like, I think we could all land on our feet. We have enough transferable skills. We do the social media. We do a whole bunch of other things. But then there's like just a bit of an older generation in radio where I'm like, man, how are they going to adapt and change their lives? Like those are who I worry about the most.
And that's why I think no matter what job, radio or otherwise, no matter what job you are in, what career you are in, you can't let that be just who you are. Like you have to have an identity, but it's outside of that as well. And I know it's hard because you spend most of your waking hours at work doing work.
Well, especially for our job, because part of our job, if you choose to do it, which we chose to do it, is talk about our personal lives and put our real feelings on the air sometimes. So it was a more personal medium for us. A lot of people go to work, they don't really say anything about their personal lives. They do their work, they go home. Us, on the other hand, we decided to connect with our audience by talking about the same stuff that we hoped that they were going through. And it's a more personal medium for us. So that does make it a little bit tougher because you put so much of yourself
your
out
real
there,
self. Yeah.
And it felt like it wasn't good enough.
Well, and we know like one of the highest suicide rates are in men sort of 50 plus for this exact reason, because they've tied their entire life and identity to working, providing for their families, and that's been their whole identity. And so when they get to an age of 50 plus where we start seeing, you know, AI taking jobs or industry shrinking and men losing that aspect of it, like they truly, again, like that's why the suicide rate's so high. That's why the mental illness is so high in men like that, because they've built their entire thing about work. Some of them have been in jobs, some of them have hop jobs. It's much less important on what you do, but just forever.
Okay, I'm sorry. Someone's ringing the doorbell, and we have a sign on our door saying, do not ring doorbell.
Canceled. I was making a hot point there.
I know. I'm so sorry.
Should I go answer the door?
I think it was probably a delivery.
What else did you have delivered? What did you order?
No, nothing. I don't know what it could be.
All right, so sorry, we didn't mean to interrupt that point.
No, I mean, it's just that tying your entire identity to work can lead to incredible loss.
Yeah.
And we see that particularly in older generations of men. Yeah.
It's like when you're in a relationship, it is a relationship, right? It's you've invested so much time into it, you know, and then next thing you know, it's gone. It's like when you date someone for like 5-10 years, next thing you know, it's over and they're gone.
Yeah.
Like it's incredible. It's crazy to think that you can date someone for 5 years, spend every day with them, and then you break up and then one day you just never see them again.
Oh, they're your best friend and you do everything together. And then, then you wake up the next day and they're gone.
There's a fine line between love and hate.
Yeah. Well, the job's the same thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's the same thing.
It's for you, Dayna.
What do you mean it's for me?
I don't know what this is, but it's in a pink box.
What is this?
I don't know.
Kirkland, Quebec.
Hey,
It's
guys.
a good internet. By the way, we're not sponsored.
Yeah.
We're not sponsored. But if you want to sponsor us, please get in touch with us.
Dayna clearly loves packages.
Hey, thanks.
Are we ready? Live unboxing?
Well, it's a lot of teeth.
Oh, I was expecting this. It's from Lancome.
Juicy
tubes.
I thought I said juicy jubes.
This is like the old school from the 2000s.
They sent you this?
Yeah, they sent me this. This is a
From your
PR
TikTok?
thing.
From your TikTok?
Yeah.
At Dayna Breezy? Hey, you should unbox it.
Great.
It's yours.
This is great. You're doing a fantastic job. Yeah, these were really big. Oh my God.
Oh
how
my God,
cute.
look at the juicy keychain. That's hilarious.
So these were really big in the 2000s, these glosses.
So they're lip glosses.
That's the lip glosses.
Original Well, they're all originals. Lavender Latte, Cocoa Macchiato, and Magic Spell.
I think I ate those as a kid.
Probably.
I was a weird kid.
It explains so much. You know, the social aspect of the job is probably what I miss the most.
Yeah.
Right. And, you know, we went to work, we're in a studio, we'd go around saying hi to people, but you working in promo, you're dealing with like other employees, like street teamers and stuff, and you're dealing with like clients. So you had a much more social day than we did.
Honestly, I hate to like sound like a broken record, but the transition of the pandemic has just completely changed it, right? Because we went through that. I think it was 2 or 3 years before we started being back in the office again. Yep. And initially when I went through that, like it was incredibly hard, but then you sort of get used to it. So there's definitely the aspect of it that I do miss and I will miss. Like when you got let go, like I couldn't even come sit in the studio anymore with Dayna because it just
smells weird when I'm
she would bring tuna in and stuff. It was too much.
Stop microwaving fish.
But it's just like the memories, like it felt like dead. Like it felt
was, yeah.
It did.
It was depressing.
Do you remember like there was times that the station would run like pandemic reports at the top of the hour and it sounded like a zombie apocalypse the way it was. And we would go to work and there would be nobody there. The streets were empty too, which we kind of enjoyed because of traffic.
That was the best part. Oh my gosh. Wide open streets.
But I think even after people started coming back, it never did go back to what it felt like before.
No, never.
You know what I mean? It was just different.
Yeah. And you brought this up earlier when you were talking about how a lot of men are affected too by this, like 50 plus in their whole identity. And June is Men's Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
It is this month.
Happy Men's Mental Health Month to me.
Yeah. And I know you're big. If you don't follow Ryan on TikTok, which you can, Big Red Ryan. Is it Big Red Ryan?
01.
Hockey
player.
Wait a minute. There's another Big Red Ryan?
I think someone did actually take it. Yeah. It was pretty rude.
But you talk a lot about men's mental health.
Yep.
And, you know, the manosphere and all that stuff. And you get a lot of pushback. You get a lot of haters, if I will. How do you deal with that?
Well, sometimes it's difficult, like I will admit, but it's two parts. So like I was talking about creating this routine for myself and creating this wellness plan that like sort of like helps me deal with this. It's the same thing that helps me deal with that, right? Like I have set myself up in a life, like my life works for me. So I'm an active participant in my own mental health. I'm doing things that I know work, that bring me joy, that are meeting my basic needs. So it's keeping my mental health at a pretty even keel level. So I'm not getting overly emotional in either way. I'm also on medication and I have been for the last almost 15 years. And, you know, I go to therapy once a month. So my life is based around like creating wellness for myself because I've lived with depression, anxiety, and suicidal tendencies. So that also helps deal with that. So when people make videos about me, those get like a little, like those irk me a lot more than like comments.
Well, it feels like it's been taken up a notch. Do you feel like it's become more personal
It
now?
does, yeah. And they start insulting me through video and like that, or like some guy like saved like 100 of my videos and was making videos.
That's another level.
Exactly.
That's another level. That's something.
Because when I started doing this, like I obviously know you're going to get pushback, but like I'm like, I'm like almost at 10,000. So I was like, who am I? I'm nobody. Right. And so for that to happen was quite jarring. I had somebody from my life somewhere create an account, follow me just to insult me. So like, I never expected that to happen. But the most important thing is to remember is when people are negative in any way, whether it's on my videos or anybody's videos, that is a mirror. It's a reflection of themselves. They are lashing out at you because they see something
in your video that they can recognize.
Exactly.
And probably something they're guilty of.
Yeah. Yeah. That they wish they aspire to be, whatever it is. Like they're lashing out because they have pain and hurt in their lives, right? It's like goes back to bullying 101. Hurt people hurt people. Mm-hmm. And I just keep that in mind. And I try to be as compassionate and answer people compassionatally. Sometimes I just, sometimes
you just troll right
sometimes
back.
I just troll right back.
Well, I think sometimes, you know, and I know people like, you know, trolling is just, you know, going down to their level. But I always say sometimes, you know, an asshole needs to be told you're being an asshole.
Yeah.
Sometimes need to be told that.
Yeah. polite but firm is like what I believe is like, I'm not insulting who they are, their character, but like I want to be firm and be like, yo, this isn't okay, or just completely dismiss it because it means nothing to me. But I do it because while I do get negative comments, the amount of positive comments I get from it, the amount of opportunity, the amount of people I connect with, it like makes it so much worth it. Like, yeah, I maybe have gotten like 200, 300 really negative comments over the past, number of months, but I've gotten thousands of comments of support and positivity.
Yeah.
I've connected with people, even men, and it's been great.
You can't have one without the other.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
It comes with the territory. And I know a lot of people have a fear. People don't like even want to post online because they have this fear of being perceived and that fear of, well, people are going to have opinions about me. And I always say that too. Like, negative comments used to bother me so much. They would get right under my skin. And now I'm just like, they don't matter at all because they're never personal.
Yeah.
It can't be personal a lot of the times because they don't know you. They have no idea who you are. They know a 15-second version of you, and now they have all these perceptions of who you are in their mind, which does not exist at all in the real world. So it's not personal. And like you said, it is a reflection. It says any negative comment anybody receives for anything says so much more about them than it does about the person receiving the comment. It says nothing about the person receiving the comment.
No, because the amount of comments that people get that aren't even true and off base. Like some guy was like making fun of me for being a life coach. I'm like, I'm not a life coach. Nowhere does it say being a life coach.
I don't think we'd be friends if you're a life coach.
I would expect to be, locked up for that. But it's just, they have this preconceived notion. They develop this parasocial relationship with you based on the things you talk about that's like, and part of that is just like, I mean, you guys know I don't lack self-confidence, but just being secure in yourself as a human. So if people call me one thing or another, I'm like, I know I'm not. So
yeah. So what does it matter?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it's all impulse too. Like we'll put out the most boring video, and then someone will make a comment like, "Oh, he's a red flag, dump him," or like just say something about
people
us.
tell me to dump you a lot. Like it's concerning.
Well, I told you stop taking my mom's calls. And that's the problem with online. They see you for 10 seconds. They're like, I know exactly who this person is and what their problem is.
Which they don't. They have a made up version of you in their head, and that's not reality.
And you stopped your day to write this comment to a complete stranger. Why don't you just scroll?
It's a bean soup theory, right?
Bean soup theory.
Yeah, you remember that viral video of the girl she shared a TikTok about making like a bean soup, and so many comments were negative, asking, why couldn't you provide an alternative? I don't like beans. I don't like beans.
Yeah,
You're the
I
problem.
don't like beans.
Right.
Yeah.
So why couldn't you give a recipe that doesn't have beans? And it's like, well, this is a recipe for bean soup. If you don't like beans, then this recipe is not for you.
Right.
And you need to move on. But instead, people were all up in the comments demanding justice.
Yeah.
Less beans,
It's the theory that everything somehow applies to me. And if it doesn't, it needs to.
It needs to.
And I got to make it about myself.
Yeah.
It's funny. When I posted the video of me getting let go, let's say if I got 200 comments, 187 of them were supportive. And people are like, this is what you can do. Because I'm like, what am I going to do? What transferable skills do I have? I can do weather and traffic in 10 seconds. Where am I going to do that other than radio? Most of the comments were very supportive that you can do this, podcasting, you can do voice acting, whatever. But then there's those people who are like, well, it's your fault. Radio is dead and you went into a dead industry. So like even now where we've had last week, how many people get let go? Like almost the entire staff.
Like at least 10
in
people.
The comments at Reddit be like, what did you expect? Radio is dead.
Yeah.
I'm kind of happy they're gone. You're happy that 11 or 12 full-time employees lost their jobs and livelihood? Where's the empathy?
I know. I saw a comment, I think it was on Reddit, being like, good riddance. I was like, good riddance? Like, that's crazy. People lost their jobs and are heading into an uncertain job market. And you say good riddance? Like, that's such a lack of empathy.
Must be a hit at a party. They're not getting invited to parties. Trust me, they're not.
Average Reddit guy.
Average Redditor. Yeah.
But like, I mean, I know you guys would agree. Radio is a special medium. Like, I don't fight to the death, even though I may never work in it again. I don't think I want to. But the medium is so important for local that, like, I always go back to when the tornadoes happened and like we were updating social. The radio was on. We could give live updates, and like internet was out. Cell phone coverage wasn't working. So like radio was literally the only place you could turn, and we were on backup power, ready to go. You could get in your car. You could have a battery radio. So in times of an emergency, radio is super important.
And in small cities, by the way.
Especially, yeah.
Where you usually have 2 live shows. You have a live morning show and a live afternoon show. So from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. or 9 a.m., you have a live announcer in there. And then from 2 o'clock to 6 o'clock, you have a live announcer. But from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. and from like 6 to midnight, they're usually recorded from out of market. So if you're having a tornado, that show, by the way, has already been recorded and there's no live updates going, right? So luckily, we had live people. But that's the importance of local radio, is that to turn on the radio to find out what's going on in your community in case something like that happens.
When I put my video out about getting let go, someone made a great comment being like, the loss of local media has contributed to the rise of sort of like this misinformation and like this political instability that we're seeing, because you don't have like that, just that local voice you trust, who knows what's going on. You know them, you probably met them at an event, or at least you feel like you've talked to them on the phone or whatever. With that being gone, you're now turning to a lot of like people online who don't have journalistic background.
Have agendas.
Yeah, have agendas. I always go back to that terrorist attack in Ottawa with
Nathan Cirillo.
Yeah.
And how much misinformation was being spread. People were like, the shooter's in the mall.
Yeah.
They're on
There was
top
a
of the
second
building.
one.
Everybody, yes, they were locking down place it. Like it was,
And that was where I was like, oh my God, like, okay. Cause I think I'm helping. I'm like retweeting stuff, like everyone be aware. And then you just realize you're feeding into this misinformation narrative. But like, if you have that local TV host or that local radio host who's fact checking and vetting everything,
confirm things,
you don't get that outrage and that panic, right? Like everyone can stay calm. Like, here's what's going on. Here's the facts. And I think that's just without these voices, like it's been such a detriment to our culture and society.
And I will forever die on this hill, and you guys know I will, but I truly believe because radio is free, it's such a big deal. It's so accessible to everybody. I still think they need to unlock the chips. Where our phones have FM chips that for some reason they don't allow them to be used for whatever reason that is. But anyway, like radio is the last thing that's free that you have access to that doesn't cost you your internet. It doesn't cost you a subscription fee. You don't have to pay a monthly charge. There's literally nothing you need to pay in order to access radio. And that is something that's so big. That's such a plus for it, you know? And I do, like I've said in my posts, like it's still very relevant. It still has a place in this world.
But it's just seen as a dying medium.
It does need to be innovated.
Yeah.
I think personally, there needs to be some changes. A lot of radio stations are still programmed like it's 2003 and we're 2025 now. So I think that you just need the right people in the right positions to innovate it, but it definitely has a future.
And the right investment, because no matter where you are, this isn't specific to anyone or any company. It's like it's not being invested in right now. And I think if it did see the right investment, like you could really see a bigger impact. And I'm not just talking in marketing, but just like a wholesale product of just robust staff. Like you're out in the community, you're helping charities, you're doing all sorts of things like that, right? Like that also is severely lacking across North America.
And it's North America, right? Because it's Canadian and US radio. But if you look at how radio does overseas, especially in places like the UK, it's such a huge deal.
It's a big deal. Well,
radio is a huge deal overseas.
Well, I worked in Montreal and radio was a much bigger deal there than it was here. Much bigger deal.
And think of the impact we all made. Like I did my Cause for Pause. You guys had the resilience. I know the candle didn't quite take off like we wanted to, but like really great idea.
Pals, like we did adopting animals
like
that worked.
The impact that we were able to have with these local things. You can't get that with Facebook. You don't get that with TikTok. You don't get that with Instagram or Spotify or Apple Music. Like that's radio. We're supporting local business. We're supporting local communities.
And on the ground doing it.
Well, I shouldn't say we anymore, but they are.
Well, without us, I don't know.
Yeah, but like that's probably like one of the most parts I'm going to miss the most is just being able
community
to
stuff.
Yeah, like And selfishly, that created a lot of opportunity for myself. Like that's how I got into public speaking about mental health. That's what inspired me to first share my story about my suicide attempt is radio and watching people like Dylan like get involved and other like Michael Landsberg of TSN, like these prominent figures talking about things like inspired me because I'm like, I'm in this industry. I can use my voice for good. And like, so there's just a lot of power in that.
You know what I'm going to miss the most about working there?
Well, it can't be the vending machine.
No, because that was gone, but it's the office printer. I'll miss that the most.
Yeah.
Can I just say
How
that?
am I going to print all my return labels?
He makes a great comment about like all the charity stuff he does, and you come back with the printer.
It is important.
It is.
It was a big
Who has
part.
a printer?
It's a big part of my
true.
life. What can I
Who has an
say?
industrial printer? And like, you know, it's true because every time we'd have to print something, anything, be like, just print it at work.
Print it at work.
Where am I going to go now? Staples?
Yeah.
Have you walked into a Staples lately?
It's depressing.
It's so depressing. Get some good light. Why is it so dark in
Why
there?
is it so gray?
I think I'm still going to go to the building, just like knock on the door, be like,
Yeah. 3 pages. I need 3 pages. It's little things, you know, like where am I going to get multicolored paper clips? I get them at the office. Where am I going to get the dry erase board erasers? Like I get that stuff at work.
Yeah.
Now I got to pay for it like a regular jabroni. And there's other stuff too that we take a walk every day before work, like a mental health walk before work, which became more and more important as the time went on.
Yeah, it did.
Right?
It was always good to have that walk.
What do you think for somebody who's struggling right now but has not come to grips with that they might have a mental health problem or need to speak to someone? What do you think is the most important first step that they need to deal with to start their process of healing, getting better?
the first step is, I mean, it's partly admitting to yourself, but also telling somebody. I get that's hard for a lot of people. And I know not everybody has someone they trust, whether that be a friend, a partner, a parent. It can be difficult, but the first thing you need to do is get that weight off your chest. Cause I'm sure both of you know, like when you are struggling with something, it feels like you're sort of carrying on a weight, right? Like you're like, it's sort of, especially if it's really bad, it can become all consuming. Like it's like a narrative in your head that no longer does facts make sense or the truth. It's like you have this narrative in your head of what's going on, whether that's like you're perceiving people thinking about things about you or saying things about you or these beliefs about yourself. Everyone sees me this way. And then it can get real bad. Like when I wanted to take my life, it was about, one, I can't deal with this pain anymore. And two, everyone is better off without me, right? Like people always say suicide is selfish, but for me, it was like being selfless.
Yeah, kind of like you're doing this for everyone else's benefit.
Yeah.
Exactly, right? So once I was finally able to tell somebody about this, it freed the weight. I no longer carried that weight. It didn't necessarily solve the problem, but now it's like, okay, I'm not hiding in the dark anymore. People see me. This is what I'm thinking. And then you can go and get the appropriate help, whatever that might be. Sometimes that is medication. Like I said, I've been on medication for a number of years now. Sometimes it's therapy. And I always like to preface by saying, like, therapy isn't just laying on a brown leather sofa with some guy being like, how does that make you feel, right? That can be a part of it, but like there are so many different modalities of therapy. There's CBT, which is the most common one, but there's DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, there's art therapy, there's somatic therapy, there's rapid eye movement therapy.
Really?
Like there's all sorts of different things based on what you have.
I think a lot of people believe that if you go see a therapist, you know, you're laying on that brown couch and then you're just being asked, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
That I think people have kind of like it's maybe a stigma around it. Like it's just
pop
like
culture. That's what the
people
media
think
has
they're just trying
portrayed
to take
it.
your money and not
Yeah.
solve anything.
And listen, some people go to see a therapist and like there isn't a jive there. And then they're like, oh, this is what therapy is. So it's also important that sometimes you have to put in a little bit of work to finding a therapist, which if you're struggling isn't always the easiest thing to do, but it can be hugely beneficial if you have someone who you feel gets you and sees you and can work with you for the different things that you might need. And then again, sometimes that's just talk therapy. There's other forms. Like you could take MDMA and go, through a response with a therapist as a therapy modality. I don't think it's, you can in Canada, but
I'm like, is that legal?
yeah, maybe not in Canada, but I know in the States it's definitely being researched. So like there's just so many different areas that you can receive help, but I feel like people just want this like one step solution, being like, hey, I'm depressed, and someone goes, perfect, here you go, now you're not depressed anymore.
You know, we talked about that with a couple older people in my family, where you go see a doctor and they're like, they prescribe something and you need to do this, but they'll just do the pills and they'll just think it's going to work, when you have to put more work into it to get that goal of, you know, resolving what issue you have.
Yeah, we want that one step solution.
Right.
Do you know what my problem is with therapy? And it's not really a problem, and we've talked about this before.
Is it the brown couch?
No.
She hates a brown couch.
Yeah,
And I've
sticky.
I've done
Hey, what kind of therapy is this?
casting couch therapy, apparently. No, my problem is, and I've done therapy before, and I have liked it, and I have enjoyed it, and I have found that it helped me. But I feel like I am too headstrong a lot of the time for therapy, in the sense that, well, I know why I am the way I am. I know what I need to do. I don't need anybody to tell me. I just, you know, I don't know what I'm going to get out of a conversation when somebody's going to tell me exactly what I already know. Do you know what I'm saying?
But have you convinced yourself that you already know what they're going to say? And that's why you've shut yourself off to it?
Yeah, like I'm convinced that they can't tell me anything I don't already know about myself. So I don't know what the benefits are going to be for me anymore.
Let me ask you this. How do you feel your feelings?
How do I feel them?
Yeah.
With tears?
What does that look like for you?
It's usually tears.
Yeah.
It's
So
usually
she shows her
usually a
emotion.
physical
Yeah, and
response.
where does that show up in your body?
Well,
when you
physically
have
it shows
tears?
up at the restaurant while we're having dinner and people think I'm the problem.
Yeah. Oh, he's breaking up with her. But like, so when you have tears, what are the feel like? What do you feel in your body before the tears come?
Like, I don't know, like an overwhelming sense of sadness.
Right. And how, like, where do
Or concern
where
or
do you
worry.
what does that feel like? Where do you feel that?
Probably in like my chest and
See?
my head, my face.
That's the thing. You're over intellectualizing your feelings and your problems. It's one thing to be aware of your problems and the solutions. That's definitely one part of it, to creating a different life. But one thing I'm working on with my therapist is somatic therapy, which is feeling your feelings. So when I'm extremely anxious about something, or I'm spiraling, or I'm sad, okay, where does that show up? Okay, so I get sort of this tangly feeling in my stomach. I start clenching my fists, and I get really tense in my shoulders. And okay, so now I'm noticing this in the moment when I'm anxious, and it's like, okay, now let's ground ourselves. So both feet on the floor. Okay, what do my feet feel like? Okay, yeah, I feel my feet. What do my knees? Do a little body scan, and I start to ground myself. Okay, are the feelings changing? What's different? And then that's how I'm taking myself out of the spiral, right? It's like a form of mindfulness. I'm bringing myself back down to present.
You're centering yourself again.
Exactly. And because I over intellectualize my feelings all the time. I know why I'm thinking this. And then I start thinking of all the different scenarios and right. That's if you're going for solutions, because like, oh, like my mom yelled at me as a kid and now I'm a people pleaser, XYZ. And I know I shouldn't be a people pleaser and I should have boundaries, but I'm like, yeah, sure.
Did you read my diary?
Told you that lock was bunk.
Right? Like that's one thing you can get through to try to change that. But if you're not seeing results because you have this mental block, it's like, okay, like bring yourself, when you start experiencing those emotions, how do you center yourself? How do you can prevent them or minimize them? And once you start to be able to control that and have some emotional intelligence about that, then it's like, okay, when I had this mental block because I know I should do this, but I'm not going to be, and there's something in the way of that. Okay, when you reach that point, what are we feeling? Where are we going in? We start going into ourselves. And like that's how you create that or like get rid of that mental block. You start catching yourself in those moments and those patterns that you now have for yourself. And then that's how you start to try to break through those. If you want solutions, sometimes people just want to go to therapy to vent. Maybe it's not about solutions. Maybe it's not about discovering your childhood trauma and how that makes you an adult today.
You just want to like, vent something
Yeah.
to somebody who absolutely has no idea who you
Yeah.
are. Because when you vent to friends, some friends are helpful, but when you vent to friends, they know you and they know your tendencies and stuff. Sometimes you want that, objective.
Well, and they're not always trauma informed, right? Like they'll try to give you solutions, or they'll try to solve your problem. They'll offer things that aren't quite helpful. But you're just like, okay, that's nice because you're my friend, right? Like just going in there, like a therapist isn't there to like solve your problems. They're there to help you recognize things in yourself and help guide you in a way to solve, not even solve, but to
deal with your own kind of
to like
issue.
live in your life. Okay. Like it's basically just giving you the tools and resources, if you want them, to deal with the things in your life
on a more constructive way,
Yeah.
which would make your life easier.
Yeah.
Right.
And or at least help you cope with really difficult situations.
Right.
Because there's therapy for like people with like identity disorder, for bipolar, like very severe mental illnesses, right? Like we're just talking very baseline, different types of things.
Yeah.
But most people who have any sort of self-awareness at all always intellectualize their feelings. We know what the best path forward is. We just can't get there. So like that's where you got to start exploring, okay, why can't I get there? It's not about finding the solution. It's about finding the way to get to that solution without getting in your own way at that time.
And removing whatever
Because
blocks.
you're your own worst enemy most of the time.
Or coming to an acceptance that like I want to get there, but maybe that's not going to be me because I don't want to do that. Or maybe like I just think that's what I want and that's not actually what I want. It's like a self-realization.
Right.
I have a question, since it is Men's Mental Health Month. What do you think is the biggest challenge right for mental health in relation to men?
Patriarchy and red pill content.
Yeah.
I know people roll their eyes when they hear the word patriarchy. And really all I mean by that is it is a system and prescribed beliefs about what men and women are, right?
But it harms men too.
Exactly.
Right?
There's gender roles. So for men, it's being strong, it's being courageous, it's being a leader. All those things are great in of themselves, right? But like women can also possess those traits. So when I say,
and it doesn't make you any less of a man if you don't
Exactly.
possess those traits.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they look different for everybody, because leadership isn't like a very like well-defined term, because leadership can mean different things to different people.
Well, there's silent leadership, or
Yeah.
especially in sports where you lead by example.
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And where it comes down to is when you take those attributes that we've defined as masculine and they become toxic, right? So there's nothing wrong with having strength, but when strength becomes dominance because you're either hurting other people or hurting yourself, that's where it's toxic. That's where toxic masculinity comes in. So that's like a huge barrier, because people don't believe that it's strength or courageous to admit that you need help mentally. We've been conditioned as men through society and through our parents. Like most men have never even seen their dad cry.
Right.
The only emotion they've ever seen from their dad or a male figure is anger. And so every emotion then, like negative emotion, is anger with a lot of men, because that's what they see as being a man. So it's breaking down those little stigmas and just repeatedly putting it in their head that like, no, like real strength is admitting you need help, and vulnerability is strength and courageous, and actually leadership. Like you need to talk about these things and then go to get the proper supports to help you. With all of this, while we're trying to have this conversation with men and women and other folks, you have the red pill content being like, that's all bullshit. It's all women's fault. It's all immigrants' fault. It's all trans people's fault. It's not your fault as a man. There's actually nothing wrong with you. You are perfect. It's all these other
Everyone
people.
else.
As a man, like that's extremely validating. And if you're in a vulnerable position where, let's face it, society is asking for men to change and sort of be accountable for things that a lot of other men have done, which can be a frustrating experience for a lot of young men. You have this other side being like, no, you don't need to change. You're perfect. It's that woman, controller, shut her up. And they're like, yeah, right. And so all these men who are extremely emotionally vulnerable because they're really upset about some of what's happening in society are now finding the friendship, the community, the
community. It's
bonding
huge.
with these other men, and they all are united under this anger and target of a group of people.
At the end of the day, you have to ask yourself too, why do people that make, that red pill, we'll call it content, why do they make it? And why do they encourage this line of thinking? Because to me, at the end of the day, it all revolves around money.
Yeah, money and power.
Because it's usually like radical opinions that are really old fashioned and not based in, how society works today. And like you said, and the power, right? So for me, I'm like, you have nothing to gain with your platform by trying to go against that, right? You're just trying to show men that there is a different way, that there's a different way of thinking and about like being a better person. So for the other side of it, I'm like, there is no purpose. You're just trying to point fingers, get clicks, make money, and force people to be combative with one another.
Well, I think
there's no end game to that.
I think it's probably a mixture of both. I think the people do believe it, and I think there's a size of them that don't necessarily believe it, but are like, look, I did one video and I got 1 million views. Look at all the followers I got. I have to ride this wave. And you can see that not only on TikTok, but you can see that on television and news channels.
And people adopting these opinions because they know it gets them the attention.
I don't make shit.
That's what I mean.
I make like a little bit of money on a speaker fee sometimes, but I don't get paid for mostly any of this. What I know is this path, what I'm telling people, helped me and changed my life and has made me an infinitely better person to not only my family, my friends, but to my community, right? And what I don't get paid for in money, I get paid for in love and support. That when I lost my job,
I love how that pays the water bill and stuff.
Yeah, I went to my landlord.
It's like you go back to the city of Ottawa and be like, how big of a hard drawing do you want this $85 water bill?
Yeah.
Do you want an arrow through it?
But when I lost my job, I was getting like so many messages of people like, I'm asking like if you like let my contact list, like here's a job at my company, I can get you first, right? Like, so it's like in a way karma, like that if you need people, because I really have a hard time asking people for anything, that like, but my hope is that like if I'm in trouble, that
someone will be there for you.
And what I found is whether they tell me they're watching or not, that like when I'm now in a bit of trouble, I'm now getting like so much support from all these people, and having one person, one man, one woman, one non-binary person saying, you helped me get help, you helped me whatever, is well worth for me, like any payment or anything, because like at the end of the day, like money's money. Sure, I'd love more of it, but I'd rather somebody be able to change their life or stay here, you know?
And that's hard to do as somebody watching your content, realizing that I can make a change. It's uncomfortable. And when people are faced with either facing what they need to change or facing that their traumas, when they see the other side, which is just, no, you're amazing. Like everyone else is the problem, not you. That's very comfortable. Oh, I don't have to change. That's easier for me. It's harder to admit that, either you need to make changes or you need to face the trauma or you need to go against what society has told you for many, many years. That's harder to do than just accepting that, oh yeah, it's no problem, right? It's not me, it's everyone else.
And I will say that when I posted my video about what happened to me, I was floored at how many complete strangers reached out to me and gave me unwavering support when you've never met me, you've never heard a show, you've just seen like a 25-second video. So there is I think a majority of people are on the positive side, but the people who want to comment mostly are the people who need to tell you something. It's usually a negative thing.
The hate's always louder.
Yeah, the haters.
Always.
And that's what they tell you in radio.
Yeah.
You'll hear more from the haters than you will from the fans. And it's true. We heard from haters.
Well, it applies to almost anything in life, because when you go to like a store or a restaurant and you have a bad experience, you are more likely to get online and make a complaint or write a review or tell other people about your bad experience. Yeah. Yes, I have seen them. Reviews, yes. I'm there when you're writing them. Yeah. Versus when you have a really great experience, you're likely just leaving that feeling good. That doesn't mean you're going to go online. And like anger is such a motivator for a lot of people. And I think that's human nature a bit.
For me, I make an active choice that joy is a motivator, not only for myself, but for other people. So like when I see videos on TikTok, I leave supportive comments or I'll leave joyful comments, just being like, hey, this is really great. Like, keep going. Like, because I know what it's like to be on the other side of the hate and seeing negativity and how that affects my brain. So I'm like, that's just one small thing I can do. Complete strangers, friends, like sharing their post, leaving a comment, just doing something nice. Because like I've always believed, if anger and hate can and motivate people to do so much awful things, like joy and happiness can be such a motivator to create a positivity in a better world.
And it's the law of attraction. And I know what people think it's, maybe not, you don't believe in the law of attraction, but there is something to it where if you are constantly putting out anger and negative things online and to people, it's going to feed back to you and create a cycle of it, versus if you put out joyful things and positivity, those are the things that you start noticing versus the negative.
Well, from a psychological perspective, that if you're being positive and joyful, people are just want to be around you.
Yeah.
People will, like, you get more opportunities. Positive things happen because you're being positive. And it's just that like, oh, well, this person's really nice, so I'm going to be nice back. So it's your energy thing, like, yeah, sure, cool. But there is like psychological principles to it as well.
It's very difficult to be positive all the time. And I don't think it's...
Well, there's toxic positivity too. That's definitely
You ever
not.
walk into the Gap? Hey, how are you? No one's this happy. Those pants fit well, huh? Like, no, you're not this happy, okay? You're just not this happy. It's difficult sometimes.
It can be, especially in this world.
It's so easy to be negative because I think for the most part, people bond over negativity more than you do over positivity. Sometimes I'm negative if I'm going through like a health thing. I always think the worst. And you're the one that comes back and be like, you got to put more positive energy into the world, but it's difficult
you have
sometimes.
to, because a lot of concerns always stem around the what ifs. What if this? And what if I can't find a job? And what if I lose my house? And what if that? But also, what if not? Like, why don't we put more stock into the what if I get a great job? What if I get a great house? What if I make more money? Because why do we focus so much on the what if negatives versus the what if positives?
Because I think it's the scarier thing. And you're freaking out about dealing with the scarier outcome.
But you can put more stock into one over the other. And
totally.
Positive,
but I think it's natural for most people to be like more scared about the what if, the negative what ifs, than the positive what ifs.
It takes intention. It takes intention when you're thinking about these things.
It's because it's anxiety, right? So it's survival. It's your nervous system trying to fight for its survival. So if I lose my house and I lose income and I can't get food, that affects my survival. That's why our brains naturally go there, because it's about our survival and our well-being. Where, like you said, thinking positively is intention. Mm-hmm. And going back to therapy, like that's what you're trying to train your brain to do, is to reframe your thinking patterns. It's okay, negative. It's like, okay, yeah, they're negative. But then while you're in the negative cycle, going and making an intentional effort to be like, but also positive, because anxiety is uncertain. It's what you can't control. You're worried about it because you are not in control anymore. And that affects your nervous system and affects the chemicals in your brain to lead you to that negative path and spiral, because it's about your survival.
There's such a good thing as good anxiety. Because when I have anxiety, it's always a negative anxiety. There's nervous energy. And then is there something that's positive anxiety? I don't think so. Because whenever I have anxiety, it's like doom and gloom.
Yeah. So I don't know if I would consider that more excitement than anxiety, but you can use anxiety in a positive way. I would use sports as a great example. Like when you're before a big game, maybe a big job interview, which we're going to be having soon.
See, I think of that as nervous energy, not anxiety.
Well, nervous energy is anxiety.
When I think anxiety, I think negative. You're like, it's nervous energy is also good anxiety. I don't connect that with
So I wouldn't say it's good anxiety, but you can use it as a motivator for good. Right? So, okay, so I'm nervous here. Okay, so what am I going to do? I'm going to go blast a song that gets me a little like calmer and pop.
Which is?
geez.
Party in the USA by Miley Cyrus.
Is it something from the Greatest Showman soundtrack, or maybe Hamilton?
Yeah, probably. Right now, probably Hamilton.
Do you know that? Did I tell you that story when we tried to watch The Greatest Showman? I don't mean to get off topic. But
You fell asleep.
no, she was 10 seconds in, and the first song started, and she goes, "I can't."
I don't do music.
She walked out the room,
I don't
and I'm
do
like, Hugh
musicals.
Jackman could do anything.
I don't like musicals.
Changed my life. But so you can, so I would use something from Hamilton or The Greatest Showman, probably.
Right. Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, I'm going to use this nervous energy to make sure I'm prepared. I'm going to use it as a motivating thing to make sure that I'm in control of all the things that I can control. So it's not necessarily positive, but you can take that and
Harness
use
it in a different way.
as a motivator for preparation and being as in control as you can be.
What would be your song, by the way?
I don't know. Maybe Tears Don't Fall from Bullet for My Valentine.
You can't just make up bands and songs. What did she say? Tears for My Valentine?
The intro is so good. I love the intro.
Dwight Schrute from The Office. Hey man, thanks so much for joining us and just hanging out for. We finally get to talk with a mic in front of us instead of just on the couch.
Me lying on the couch,
Yeah.
being silent while you guys go on, or like producer Ryan, what do you say? And I'm like,
Half the time he wasn't even paying attention.
No,
We'll be
no.
laughing about a break we did on air
Yeah.
and put our headphones down and be like, right, Ryan? It's so true. And you'll be like, what? Oh my gosh, when you got let go,
Yeah.
I was working a couple days later, I was still having a tough time
Yep.
with it. And I was
Yep.
going through files, and your name and your voice was all over our files. And I was really upset. And like, I was.
voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I would literally be crying. And then I'm like, I'm a sweep. Hey, it's 17 degrees in Ottawa today. It's really like, I'm just like, I think that's
You know
something
why?
you learn.
It's your train. You're
Yeah.
trained
Yeah.
to just
Yeah.
turn it off. That's one of the things I'm going to miss the most is when we talked about stuff that we were going through at the time.
Well, we could still do that on the podcast, I guess, right?
Yeah, I know. Tell us. You can
Yeah.
send us a message unless you want us to just shut up. That's fine too.
then the listener comes on, that guy's a dick, dump him.
You know what?
Whoa, man.
You know what we need to do? We need to go get new tattoos. That's what we need to do.
I need to get my first tattoo.
Yeah, let's all get tattoos.
Let's get tattoos.
She wants me to get my ears
Let's
pierced.
all get radio mics.
No. No.
No.
I want to go get a third ear piercing, and I said he should get his ears pierced. He already has the ghost hole from when he had them done, like what? In
the
2000s?
ghost hole. That sounds weird. Sounds like the worst cereal ever. Have some ghost holes.
Well, I got mine done in 2020. It took 20 minutes and in and out.
Yeah,
no
and
issues.
it's a lobe. It's not painful.
I remember the day where you can walk into a place, get your ears pierced, and walk out. Now you have to book an appointment and all
That
that stuff.
depends.
Well, and you
but-
don't want to go to a place where they do the gun.
Like Claire's.
Like you want to go to a legit piercer.
Yeah.
I got my ears pierced at a Pharma Plus. Now it's called Rexall.
my
That would be
God.
hilarious if you, a grown man in your 40s with a beard like that, walked into a Claire's and asked for an ear
Where'd the beard
piercing.
attack come from? Well, we're just having a good time here.
No,
What's
I'm
up?
just saying because it's like big and
Oh,
bushy.
yeah, right.
You walk into a Claire's and be like, "Hey, I want to get my ears pierced."
Something dangling, please. I would really enjoy that. She also wants me to bleach my hair.
I thought it would look
blonde.
cool.
Let him be his own man.
Okay, sorry.
Finally, somebody in my corner.
I'm not saying you need to do these things. I'm just giving you ideas for stuff. To
No, I feel like I should do something.
You should change everything about yourself.
And by the way, your name, let's change that too. Like, I don't know if there's anything I really want tatted on my body for the rest of my life.
There's lots of things that I don't care about that I just get tattooed on me.
I don't understand that thinking. I don't understand the thinking of, I'm just going to get something.
Get your first tattoo and then you'll see it.
Because it looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't
Literally,
know.
that's it.
But I want.
That's everybody always wants. I want my tattoo to have some deeper meaning and represent who I am on the inside. And it's like, nah, man, I just get tattoos because I think they look cool.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fine. And they could look cool. But I mean, like, I'm just saying that I don't want to get something where I feel like when I look back 10 years from now and be like, why?
Lasers come a long way.
I just don't know anything that I want like right away. I thought I'd give some writing.
Get a skull.
Get a skull.
Skulls are
With,
classic.
with roses coming
Those
out.
are
Look at my
classic.
leg. Like it's just gonna be skulls.
Maybe I should start small. Maybe I should get like writing on the back of my wrist.
Yeah, just put like
Oh,
Roberta-
carpe diem. Right
just
behind
breathe.
Your ear.
What was it?
Little butterfly,
anchor.
little butterfly on the ankle.
Live, laugh, love.
Yeah. Or what is the let them one?
Oh my gosh, the let
Yeah,
them.
my mom got a let them tattoo.
Yeah. Get a tramp stamp like I did for my first tattoo.
Oh man.
I thought about that as just for the bit.
Oh my god, that's
just for the bit,
hilarious.
just for the laugh, just for the one video on TikTok.
Well, no, that'd be a forever laugh because everybody that meets you gets to discover it about you.
Yeah.
My first one was a triple clef on my calf
Okay, well,
Why?
because I like music.
Oh, there you
a
go.
lot of people like music.
Yeah.
You don't want to get a lyric or anything?
I have a lyric on my back.
What is it?
All the elements in life's complexity make our struggle infinite.
From what song?
Yeah.
Our Infinite Struggle by In Flames.
I'm not familiar.
I'm trying to avoid that.
Avoid what?
Like, I'm trying to avoid, like...
Oh, telling somebody about your tattoo and they're like,
Have you ever seen that?
It's not for them, it's for me.
That Sebastian
Exactly, that's true too.
That Sebastian Maniscalco bit about, tattoos. What's the significance? Because everyone's got a tattoo. I'd like to get a tattoo. I just can't figure out what I want.
I mean, I have the Chio one on my ribs.
Yeah, but that's for a good cause, though.
Yeah.
It's Chio. I wanted to get the power sword right here from He-Man, and Dayna kind of like crapped all over it.
Get it on the back. Yeah,
That's what I did. She crapped all over it. And here you are, like a couple months later, being, get what you want.
No, get what you want within reason.
See what I'm
I have to
talking about?
like it too.
Oh, let's tell all the tattoos you like and don't like on Dayna's body.
Oh, man. I think, to be honest, everything that's not on her arm, I don't like.
Yeah, same here. It's fine. I don't like those.
What were you
other
thinking
two.
with that back tattoo?
I don't know. I was like 17
There
when
it
I
is.
decided I wanted it. So you do stupid shit at 17.
17.
Yeah.
I'm surprised you didn't get the Playboy bunny like other girls.
Ooh.
And that's when I was like, I'm going to get a hibiscus flower. And then the flower under it is going to be in black and gray. And it's going to have teardrops on it to represent that the bad times don't matter. Like, come on.
But tears don't fall.
What's the significance?
Like, come on. That's so pathetic.
Well, if we're getting tattoos, I'm always in.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll start. I got him pierced once. Maybe I'll get him
Or
pierced.
we can just make him drive us and we can just go get tattoos.
Yeah, exactly.
Uber now? I have no job. Like, neither do you people.
Yeah, we can just start an Uber taxi service.
All right, I think it's time to wrap it up.
Yeah, I think that's it. This will be our longest episode yet, I think.
Yeah, thanks for coming in, man.
Thanks for having me.
Just like, it's unfortunate what's happened, but we're now literally all in it together.
Yeah, and we're going to get through it and
Yeah,
we'll
absolutely.
be better for it.
Well, the thing I appreciate with you guys and a lot of other people is like the friendship lasts outside of work. Like we hung out outside of work. Like to me, that matters more than like any stupid job.
Yeah.
Stupid job.
job.
Tell him we're going to stop being friends now, or should we wait till later?
I know.
Can we just wait for it to come out?
You can follow him, by the way, Big Red Ryan 01. I want to know if it's just Big Red Ryan is another account or Big Red Ryan 00.
Yeah.
No, 01's the hockey number.
01's hockey number. Okay, there it is.
What's the significance?
Well, I'm a goalie and they don't make jerseys that are big enough.
Thanks for listening. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and if you got any questions, send them to us at Tony and Dayna
And
on
positive
TikTok.
comments only going forward
Yeah.
online.
Because if you don't, really bum us out.
Stop trolling.